So this study's called The Law. We're going to do this study. And I want to, and this is the law of the Bible, the scriptures, okay? And so what I want to do is, by way of an analogy, I want to liken it into the highway, the freeway. Does everyone here drive, or not everyone drive yet? Some of you still, okay. Some of the kids, some are up or coming. I know mine, Ezra, he's, he's getting his permit and, driving around and stuff. So there are rules on the highway. There are laws, correct? So we have laws on these highways, and they are there, and we had to take instruction to learn these laws. So if you break the law, you end up getting a ticket and a fine, right? You get a penalty because you broke, and I broke the law. So what happens is, if you pay the fine, right, you fork out the cash. That guy's going really fast, by the way. If you can see all those hundreds, this guy, he no do 65. So you are now made free from the law if you pay that fine, right? You paid the fine. I'm freed from the law. Well, no. When you go back out in the highway, that speed limit is still there, and you're going to have more. It's second offense, third offense, strikes and all that stuff. We can't go out and break the law. It still stands. So what I want to show is that after you've broke the law, you paid the fine, now you can put up, you're not under the law anymore, right? It's like, I'm free from the law. So you can go as fast as you want, And I know a lot of cars these days go a lot faster than that, put a 2 up there. Well, this is illogical, but we know, those that have been driving for a while, we know that. And this is the end result. If we break those laws, disregard for everyone else, I'm not under that, and I'm going to do what I want. And, even Autobahn is nuts. I wouldn't go on that thing, And those of you who don't know what it is, no speed limit over in Europe. They still have that, right? The Autobahn? Yeah. So you get a lot of that, cars doing a couple hundred miles an hour. Even they have rules, but no speed limit turns into that. It's tragic. So what we want to do is we want to apply that to the way the Bible reads. And remember, when I was doing the study on Royal Kahuna, I kept saying, having fun with the Old English. That's what it says in English, but in the Hebrew, it says this. And no one spoke English, no matter how many movies we've seen with the English accents. Hello, how are you? You breaketh the law, They didn't talk like that. They said, ach, oi, Yizzle. No, not even that. That's Yiddish. They didn't even talk like that. They spoke Hebrew. And so we want to go back, learn the way it was written, and apply it that way. Makes sense, right? Okay, all right, the English. So, for the Torah of the Spirit of life, which is in Yeshua HaMashiach, which is Jesus. If you don't, I prefaced earlier, Yeshua is like what we say in English, Jesus Christ, but in Hebrew, it's Yeshua HaMashiach, has freed me from the law and the Torah of sin and death. Now, I remember reading this before, years ago, and, when you learn better, you do better, and I'm freed from the law. We'll go back to the analogy. I'm freed from what? Of sin and death. Remember that accident? It creates sin and death. So there's a penalty. I'm free from the penalty, but the law still, the speed limit's still there. Okay, but I'm freed from the penalty. When you paid the cash, or if someone pays it for you, you're very thankful for that person, right? If they pay, hey, Bernie, here's $1,000, man. You go fast, brother. So you're very thankful to that person that paid your debt, right? So we want to look at it in by way of analogy. And those of you that are younger drivers, I mean, we're out of state now. We grew up and were raised here in Southern California. We're in Idaho now. There's 3 or 4 people in front of us. That's traffic now. We're in the mountains and stuff. So I miss a lot of stuff here, but that traffic, I do not miss. And I don't think anyone here is going to say, hey, man, brother, I miss it too. No, don't miss that.
You see Amish, and that's traffic.
So to say that we're freed from the law, period, well, of course not. The law stands. It's the penalty within the law that is done away with. The Torah, the law, is a good thing for the highway of life. What does Torah mean? And I already prefaced this, but Torah means instruction. As simple as that, instruction. That's what it means in the Hebrew. So to say, I'm no longer under the creator of heaven and earth, I'm no longer under his instruction, all of a sudden that puts a little paradigm shift, huh? Because the law sounds like it's been touted as, oh, it's oppressive and it's this and that, it's a curse and all. Well, we'll get to that. But if Torah means instruction, then we have to look at it that way and say, this takes on a new meaning in my head, in my spirit. So we don't want to neglect the instructions. So if you notice here, instruction is the Torah, is the 5 books of Moses. The 10 Commandments are contained in that. All of Tanakh, which is, the writings and the prophets, the Old Testament, which it's not really called that, but Torah, instructions, and prophets. Yeshua gave instruction. The Brit Hadashah, which is the New Testament, there's instructions in there. And I like this one. The Bible, it means, well, not literally, but people made an acronym out of it, as in basic instructions before leaving Earth. So we just made a full circle, it's like Bible, it's like someone singing the song. No. All right. And if you notice, I love this. This is great. Those of you that are younger, I don't know how long you can endure a 4-hour movie or 3.5-hour movie, but the 10 Commandments from 1956, Cecil B. DeMille, the producer and the director, created this movie in the 50s. And you want some old school tech stuff, kids, it's like, this was before computers. It's trick photography. Anyway, the original 10 Commandments in 1956, you can't see it, but on those tablets, that's Charlton Heston, the actor, and on those 2 tablets, he's coming down from Mount Sinai to give the instructions, to give the 10 Commandments. Remember 10 Commandments? Yeah. All right. Shakah. Yeah. So he's coming down to give those 10 Commandments, and written on those stones from the movie is the Paleo Hebrew. It was the ancient Hebrew. And in the bottom right, it has Yod He Wah He. It's spelt like this. Yod He Wah He. And of course, backwards you get Hawaii. But someone did their homework in that movie. It's Paleo Hebrew on those stones. That blew me away. It's like when I didn't see anywhere. The father just kind of, it's just like, hey, Brian, open your eyes. Oh, wow. He's all, okay. He finally caught up. But isn't that awesome? The Paleo Hebrew on the stones from 1956 from the movie. And it's amazing. All they had to do was read that, and they wouldn't be saying Lord and God. They could just read the name, there's reasons for that, but anyway, there it is in the original on the stones coming down from the mountain. So if we do away with the law, the Torah, we would literally be saying we are no longer under instruction. How would grace replace the law on the highway? That accident? Well, I'm under grace to go as fast as I want because I'm not under the law. It gets confusing. And what I'm doing is I'm setting you guys up because these are English words. And once we get to the Hebrew, you're going to have an aha moment. If some of you might know this, but you're going to have an aha moment. And tell you what, a lot of people that don't come to faith in Messiah is because of stuff in the way the English reads. It's just, there's too much stuff. I can't do that. The scriptures say that it's a joy to follow this. And if it's not joy, then I think something happened in translation. And so that's what we're going to do is we're going to break this apart. So, but Brian, I'm no longer under the law. Key in on under the law. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. Amen. Now, I just contradicted myself, didn't I? But I did. In the English, in the English, I did, but in the Hebrew, I didn't. That pineapple's still taunting me. I couldn't sing a song earlier. I got pineapple stuck in my throat. Anyway, so we're going to break this apart. And once we're done with this, I'm going to see little light bulbs on all your heads going, oh, wow. And again, and even he's like, he doesn't like the law either. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here. But he'll understand too, and he'll be whining before you know it. All right. So tell me so what, I just want to back up. We're going to look at some verses that'll say that the law is like done away with, bad, and all these types of verses, okay? In English. So, for sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under law. Okay, we read that one. All right, tell me, you that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? Galatians, right? Okay, all right. For as many are of the works of the law are under a curse. For it is written, cursed is everyone that continues not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. Well, I don't want to start doing that because if I don't do them all, I'm under a curse, right? But this is the English. Remember, Peter he didn't sink in the water. He wiped out. Remember, so it's like we're gonna unpack this that way. It's like, oh, you understand, all Yeshua and the disciples were all surfers. Okay, so, all right. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Galatians, cut and dry. Okay, amen, brother. People high five and it's like, yeah, all right, we're not under that cursed law. Okay, but it says that in the English, but not in the Hebrew. So let's break this down and let's figure this out, because it's so important to move on with our faith. Because when people ask you, is everyone, oh, you're following the law, so you stone your children, do you? And you do this and you're sacrificing that, and all this stuff. And it's like, how do you answer that? I've had that, it's like, I don't say I follow the law. I say I follow Torah through Messiah who taught us how to do it. And we're going to break that down. So here we go. And to the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews, to them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. Paul, that's Rabbi Paul. So the law just all through here just sounds bad. It's just like, we're freed from that. Okay. To redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive adoptions of the sons. Okay, so he's just hammering this. And we're going to look at it a little different here. But wait. I remember the scripture saying the Torah is good. Okay? So, let's look at some of those verses. Wherefore, the Torah law is kadosh, which means holy. And the commandment, kadosh and holy, and just and good. Rabbi Paul, the one that just said, you're not under that, but he just said it was good. Tov in Hebrew. Do we then make void the Torah through faith? Yahuwah forbid. Yea, we establish the Torah. Well, Paul, make up your mind. If the cop said you were speeding or you're not speeding, or if he's doing this and you have your money and you guys are going back, did I break the law or not? Well, yes, no, it gets confusing, doesn't it? He that turns away his ear from hearing the Torah, even his prayer shall be an abomination. But Brian, that's in Proverbs, that's Old Testament. Really? Don't we quote the Old Testament all the time? I have a wonderful plan for you. And, that's all Jeremiah and Isaiah. And, it's like, so, okay, so we'll keep going. Now I'm going to break this one apart here. And please, I think everyone knows this one that even reads Scripture. This is from John 14:6. Yeshua says, I am the way, I am the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. What did Yeshua mean by this? Well, in the English, it can mean whatever you want, but those are all Hebrew words. So let's break it down. Way, remember on the surfboard? He was on the way. Remember that? Derech in Hebrew just means the way. Surfer. All right. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the Torah of Yahuwah, Psalm 119:1. The same instructions that told us a while ago to praise Yah with the drums and the flute and all that stuff. So he says the way, he says, I am the way. He's referring to the Torah. Walk in the Torah of Yahuwah. He's the way. What else did he say? He says he's the truth. Truth in Hebrew is emet. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and the Torah is the truth. If you want to know the definition of truth, there it is. That is the truth. So, and bear with me. I know we gave the verses against it, and these are for it. We're going to solve this whole thing because it's just still confusing. This is cementing it in the other way real quick, isn't it? So he says he was the life. Chai. Everyone say chai. Got to get the chai in there, right? Life. The chai in Passover, when the blood was on the door, it was the het, which is chai, life. That is no coincidence it was that. The Torah of the wise is a fountain of chai, life, to depart from the snares of death. So Yeshua said, I am the Torah, the way, the truth, and the life, is what he was saying. He's referring to the scriptures. At the time, in New Testament times, the scripture, when they say scripture, they're referring to Torah and Tanakh and the prophets, right? Because it's not written yet, even though they were given instructions, but at this time they're referring, obviously you can see what he's referring to. All right, I think we've cemented that, right? Yeah. Think not that I come to destroy the Torah, and it'll say law in your English Bibles, or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but fulfill. Okay. So most of you know where I'm going with this one. Strong's, Greek 4137. The Greek word is plerou. It means to be replete, filled, and I like this one because I like to fish. Where's Ruben at? Cram a net. There's a definite cram a net. Man, if you're plerou, if you fulfilled, you cram that net with fish, baby. Yeah, and Yeshua, he was a fisherman, right? Remember when he rose? What did he have on the beach? He was barbecuing up some fish, and he had honey. And so the analogy's perfect. It's like, yeah, cram a net. To accomplish, finish, execute, to complete. Okay. Some say that he fulfilled the law, so I don't have to. Or he nailed the law and the ordinances to the cross, taking it out of the way. Okay. The earlier verses, yeah, but the other verses, no. So there's still confusion here. But in reference to, if we look at plerou as far as, well, complete and done away with, that's like, who here's in school? That's like graduating and not applying anything you learned in life. 1 + 1 is 2. Okay, if you can't get past that, if you can't put that in your life and say, no, it could mean whatever I want it to mean, then school did you no good. Yeshua taught to learn to do. In the book of James, it says, don't be a hearer of the word only, but be a doer of the word. He's not teaching for philosophical. They were dealing with philosophically. In philosophy classes in high school, I helped my stepson. I said, man, they are messing with your head, these guys, and they warn against all that stuff. You can use it this way or that way, but again, it's taking a knowledge and never applying it. They're happy. They graduated. Yeah, we're $100,000 in debt, $200,000 in debt. Yay! Sorry. but not taking that information and applying it, it's just a wasted time of learning. And so Yeshua taught to learn to do, to obey. Shema, hear and do. In the Greek, it's not just hear philosophically. It's like if I say there's a hammer and nails there, hammer that together. You go, oh, that's a good concept. No, do it. Put it together. Build something. So, here's another pro verse. Open my eyes that I may behold the wondrous things out of your Torah, your law, your instruction. So again, it's calling it wonderful now, but it just called it a curse earlier. So it's getting more confusing. I'm doing this on purpose, by the way. I'm just playing tennis. It's just like, oh, pick a side, So, okay. So let's really dig in. Now, what is sin? Okay, I heard a personality on the radio. What is sin? Well, anything against God. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of vague. Give me a verse. So I'm going to give you a verse of what sin is. That sin, what is it? Like, let's define it. Whoever commits sin transgresseth the Torah, for sin is the transgression of the Torah, the law. 1 John 3:4. That's the definition of sin. Is against the Torah. Now, I still saw this, and I was still I was still trying to figure all this out. And this next translation just slapped me between right upside the head, because the way this was translated, shut it. There you go. Now, this is another translation of that same verse. Now, he who commits sin performs Torahlessness, for all sin is Torahlessness. And THRV, that's the Hebrew roots version. And I don't follow the Hebrew roots per se, but it was a translation. And it, kind of when it started out, it was good, but it got infiltrated. It got corrupted. So can't even use that term anymore. But that's basically a concept. You're going back to your roots of your faith, and it was written in Hebrew, Aramaic, later, Greek, and this and that. But it all comes from the Hebrew. So, Torahlessness, again, we're still trying to figure this out, but I'm just putting this all out there. So many will say to me, no, okay, listen, sin is Torahlessness, and this next verse is hard and it's personal to me, because I've known people to just say, no, but I don't want anything to do with that, and it breaks my heart. But this is Yeshua talking, the creator of heaven and earth. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name? Have we not cast out devils? And in your name done many wonderful works? And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity, Torahlessness. Matthew 7:23. So extreme one way and extreme the other way. What is going on? It's like, Father, show us. Because your word, it's a contradiction. I mean, seriously, we look at that and we go, what's going on? It's saying it's bad, it's a curse, it's saying it's good, it's holy, it's, and then he's warning. Okay, so now we're going to break this down. Hopefully I got your attention, or he's got your attention. So that Torahlessness is Strong's in the Greek, G458, iniquity, anomia, violation of law, wickedness, transgression, unrighteousness. They're not surfing. Remember unrighteousness? They're not surfing. Yeah, you got to surf. So that in the Greek, Hebrew alone, but in the Greek, gives you enough of the definition, like, oh, yeah, you don't want to be out on the highway and breaking that law. It's dangerous not only for you, but for the other people. So what's going on? It's teaching both. Paul, that guy. But when we understand them correctly, okay, so here we go. So we seem to have verses that both support and deny the law and the Torah. So here we go. All right. The term under the law is referring to rabbinic, Pharisaical, oral, Talmudic, Babylonian Talmudic law in Romans 6:14 and Galatians 4:21, faith and works of the law. When you see that term under the law, it's a phrase of the rabbinic, Pharisee, the oral law. Rabbis came along and said, us, follow us, and we'll show you how to follow the law. But remember, we'll get to the other stuff. So this is going to tip you off. Whenever you see that, it's not talking about Yahuwah's instruction, his Torah. It's talking about the bad guys trying to trip everyone up, saying, do it our way. Yeah. Rabbinic Judaism, it has nothing to do with ethnicity per se, Jews. Rabbinic Judaism are rabbis, whether they're Jewish or not, rabbis that come up with their own system, and basically Babylonian Talmud and all this stuff is commentary on the Torah, but to do it our way. And we'll get into some of those specific things. So that's what's going on here. So we just read law or under the law and we think it's the Torah. It's these guys. That's who he's talking about. And we're going to break this down even further. So the Talmud is the source from which the code of Jewish halakha law is derived. It is made up of the Mishnah and the Gemara. The Mishnah is the original written version of the oral law, and the Gemara is the record of the rabbinic discussions following this written record. It includes their differences of view. So they don't even all agree with each other. So that's what's going on. Sorry about that. We are on an airplane now. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's what's going on there. And now what I want to share is what helps with this is their Aramaic Peshitta. And Peshitta means simple or common. And the manuscripts are from the Codex Caborius for the people who want to study all this. The Ionan Codex, it's a Syriac language, Aramaic, Hebrew text. So it's Aramaic with the Hebrew writing or font, if you will. English on one side and the font on the other side. And this is called the Peshitta. So it's a Aramaic New Testament. Now, the writings of the Torah, Tanakh, New Testament, and it was compiled around 1st, 2nd, even into 3rd century BCE, AD. In 5th century, added 2nd Peter, John, and 2nd John, 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation. What happens is this was compiled before Constantine. Constantine had a creed that everything the believers in Messiah were doing, they changed it all. And so that's 320, I believe around 320 AD. This was compiled before that. So, it's translated from Greek. Eastern churches do not use the Greek New Testament. They believe the Peshitta as original. In either case, it is a very telling biblical text that is missing from our churches and assemblies from today. So, in the Peshitta, under the law, is translated. Okay, here, let me get to that real quick. But there's a debate on, was it the Peshitta written before the Greek or the Greek after? Like I said, either way, it's going to break down what I'm about to share with you here. So in the Peshitta, under the law, when we read those verses, is transliterated tehet nomosa. So we don't see that, but when you read it in here, and I read it in the Hebrew, it says tehet nomosa in there instead of Torah. Okay?
Wow.
So understanding this is in reference to rabbinic Jewish oral law and not the Torah. Without this understanding, we might conclude that we are not under the Father's instructions anymore. Yeshua freed us from that. But it's referring to tehet nomosa. So from here on out, when you hear tehet nomosa, it's not the instructions of the Creator, it's man's instructions. That's what's going on. We don't see it in the English because it's all la, 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 la. It's very confusing. But in here, and in these translations, it breaks it down. And archaeology and everything, it backs it. So, you saw tehet nomosa. Now we have works of the law. Okay, just digging in a little bit here. Mahase ha-Torah. So instead of saying law and Torah now in here it says Mahase ha-Torah. This was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, K4, QMMT, all the references. If you look up on Wikipedia and stuff, that this is in a reference. And again, it's referring to a group that was proclaiming their way, laws and traditions, and it's referring to the Essenes, which is an incorrect title. You don't find that in the Hebrew. Someone added that later on. But whoever they were, the Mahase HaTorah was basically like Judaism or whichever. It was a group touting like their way. And there's professors out there and everything that'll go back and forth with all this stuff. But all I'm basically doing is breaking down that in the English it says this, and it's confusing. You break it down into the Hebrew and the Aramaic, and it opens it up. So now all those verses that we read, how you're not under the law and you're not under Mahase HaTorah, right? We're not under rabbinic Judaism. Guys came along and said, you got to do this, you got to wash your hands that way, you got to walk this way, you got to do that, sun up, sun down, this, that. It's their laws. We're not under that. And that's what was going on at the time. So now we have that. And this is in references to those two, Tehet Nomosa and Mahase HaTorah. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. full well ye reject the commandments of Elohim, that you may keep your own tradition, making the word of Elohim of no effect through your tradition. So that's what's going on. You break that down, and it's exactly what was going on at the time. You know, remember Fiddler on the Roof, and what was it? Was the guy's? Yeah. Well, he broke out his tzitzit, and he's like, we wear these because tradition. You know, he didn't give an explanation. Well, Yas Torah says this isn't rabbinic at all. This is right from Numbers 15. It says to wear these on you. It says four corners of your garment, but to wear these, and when you hold them or when you see them, to remember to do his commandments. You're following the big Kahuna, and you're going to get barreled a pipeline in a big way. Man, you better remember what he taught you. It's like, okay, Doug, don't get hit in the head and do, remember Peter in that? Peter let go of the tzitzit. And these just mean to remember his commandments. And whether someone's, you don't have to wear those or you do not, it's a joy. And I want to remember the commandments that apply to me. And we'll get into that, okay? And not follow the traditions of men. Mahaseh HaTorah and Tachet Namosa. We don't want to follow that. We want to follow the very creator of heaven and earth. Yeah, we kind of want to follow that.
Yeah.
Our father's instructions.
Why do your disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. And he answered and said unto them, why do you also transgress the commandment of Elohim by your tradition? It's like tennis, boo, balls in your court. They were touting tradition, not instructions. They didn't have YouTube, so it was written. They couldn't just, Suri. So the word tradition here in the Greek is G3862, paradosis, a precept, specifically the Jewish traditionary law. Remember, it's tradition versus Torah or instruction. So, concluding the matter, when we examine the text, we find the English translations fail to make the distinction between Tachet Namosa, Mahaseh HaTorah, and Yahuwah's Torah, instruction or law, leaving many with a gross interpretation that Yahuwah's instructions are done away with because no one can do them. For this is the commandment that I command you. Today it is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. And here's the home run out of the park. I can do all things through Hamashiach, who gives me strength. Right? So when we understand it, so this is the covenant that I will make with them. After those days, says Yahuwah, I will put my Torah, my instructions, into their hearts, and in their minds I will write them. Hebrews and Deuteronomy. It's cementing it. So when we look at instruction, Torah, the law, the correct way, then it starts to make sense. Yeah. So how do we keep the Torah, the instructions that apply to you? We can get into all this stuff, and let's just give a couple examples here. For by one offering he's perfected forever them that are sanctified. Now, where remission of these is, there is no more offering for sin. For in that he died unto sin once, but in that he lives unto Elohim. So the sacrificial system for sin, that is Pleiru, that is fulfilled, graduated. He lived. 1 Corinthians 15, the life, death, and resurrection of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus in the English. That right there, that completed that sin sacrificial system. So we don't do that anymore because he fulfilled that. So I don't want someone going, but even if we could, there's no temple or this or that. It's like, it's right. 2,000 years and it's not there. It's like you couldn't do it if you wanted to. You see the dilemma with the Jewish system, they kind of make up their own rules. And when they look at Messiah, that's completed. And it makes sense because there's no temple. You couldn't do it. Even if it was there, which it's coming again, right? It's like, well, we know what happens there if we just read the back of the book, Oh, okay. Oop. So, well, I pretty much left it off there. I do. We can open it up for a little discussion or whichever, because I know there's still a lot of questions about it, because we have a mindset. I know I used to, and he's still working on it and working on me. But, well, how am I, still the Torah and doing all this stuff and all these things. And like I say, it's what applies to you through Messiah. He is the living Torah. We take 10 commandments if you want. It's like, we don't commit adultery. You don't steal, lie, covet. There's the dietary laws. Pork, isn't food. It was never classified as food. It's health to eat the way of the instructions. But if Yah made something and he says, I don't want you to eat that or even touch that or certain things, I mean, we can look today and go, okay, germs and this and disease and certain things. He doesn't always explain it, but then all of a sudden we catch up later and then figure out, this is what he meant. But I just want to backtrack a little bit and make a quick distinction that the term, because this was a dilemma for me a while ago, and this helps with this. The term Jew, who is a Jew? What is a Jew? The more I started looking into it, this was years ago, and Sheree was there before I was. I was catching up to her. Yah gave her a lot of wisdom, and I was stubborn. And but he showed her this, and I was trying to counter it, but it started clicking that simply put, a Jew is someone from the tribe of Judah. Remember, there are no J's in Hebrew, so the Yehuda, that's what a Jew is, from the tribe, not Jerusalem or Judea. It's ethnicity. It is someone from the tribe of Judah. And Israel is all 12 tribes. Reuben, Dan, all these other tribes. Huh? And Judah. Well, right. So once we start understanding that Israel is all 12 tribes. The instructions were given to all 12 tribes, not just the Jews, Judah. But what happens today, you can convert to Judaism. I'm a Jew now. I went to school. I got my yarmulke. Let's sing Hanukkah and put on the gin and tonica. What happens is, religiously, anyone can become a Jew. You pay your money and then you say, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking ethnicity. Who here is not Mexican or Native American? Who's not? Okay, Bernie. We'll use Bernie as an example. You can follow the ways, you can do all that, but you're, and whatever ethnicity you are, I'm a big mix, but I can't just be that because, I paid you money and stuff. That doesn't work, right? So I'm talking ethnically, but in adoption into Yahuwah, and I just want to break this down, is that when we accept Messiah, we are now grafted into the promises of Israel. We are Israel ultimately. And Yeshua said, I have not come but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You have your native born, which not, and then you have all those that are grafted in. So the commonwealth of Israel. So I want you to understand that the Jews, Judah, doesn't own it all. It's all 12 tribes, and they're all going to come back eventually. I mean, we get into eschatology and time stuff, but I just want to make that distinction. Once I understood that, it just opened all this up. And sad to say, real Jews, non-Jews, Yehuda, making all these laws and these rules puts a burden on the commandments of the Father. It puts a burden on that where we just want to throw it out the window. You know what? I'm not going to obey those speed limits. I'm going to go however fast I want to go. Forget this stuff. Well, guess what? You cannot change the laws of the universe. The first and second degree of law in the law of thermodynamics, you can't change those. And if you don't know what those are, you need to pay attention in science class. And I didn't when I was younger, and then I finally woke up later. It's like, okay. But there's order to the way, universe. Uni is a single measurement. Verse is a spoken word. Yahuwah spoke the worlds into existence. Universe, through one, let there be. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et haaretz. When he says that, he spoke it in, boom, and there it was. We look through a microscope, and we look at snowflakes, and no two are alike. He's messing with us. So I know I'm all over the place, but does that make sense? Tehet Namosa, Mahase HaTorah. You go into your English Bible, all you see is law, and it gets confusing because if you're honest, you see it on both sides, pro and con. And so what do? Hopefully that breaks it down. It made sense to me. And as far as getting into Yahuwah's commandments and his Torah, remember there's a time and a purpose, and we are to rightly divide, thank you, the word of truth. And what's the definition of truth? Torah. We are to rightly divide that and what applies to us. And hopefully that makes sense, and the youngins and even old guys like me and stuff, we never know it all. And we're never going to arrive to that conclusion. And when we do bow before the one that does know it all, that will be a joyous day. I think they even write songs about that stuff, But how wonderful will that be? So it's my prayer that made sense, and your faith already in Messiah. I mean, we're all. I assume we're all, have accepted him and believe, and not just believe, but follow, Shema, hear and do, and because just apply it to the highway of life, and it's the same concept. It's just danger, going past those limits and those rules, if you want to call them, but they're there for our protection. Okay, so I just want to pray and thank you for this time. Okay. So, Father, we say, Baruch atah Yahuwah Eloheinu melech haolam, which simply means, blessed are you, Yahuwah, King of the universe, Father. You created everything.